Well, Tennessee Titans fans, we're here again. We're here again. And this time, the Tennessee Titans lose to the LA Rams 33-19. I did not do a post-game reaction yesterday because I had things going on yesterday after the game. But I am here now to break down everything that happened. And we got to start somewhere, guys. We got to start somewhere. And I'm going to say it. Got to start with the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, and that is no other than Brian Callahan. Brian Callahan, I don't understand why this guy cannot get better as a head coach. I don't know what is holding him back. I don't know what is, what's got him handcuffed. I don't understand. Why can't he get better as a coach? Why can't he get better as a forget play caller. Why can't he get better as a coach? And here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. Mike Vrabel, you can make the argument, you Vrabel supporters could come on here and say he shouldn't have been fired. Okay. I still think he should have been fired. But here's what I will not say. Here's exactly what I am not going to say. I'm not going to say that Mike Vrabel was not a good coach, because he was. The problem was we were in a position to where the roster got worse and Vrabel couldn't get it better. That is where we were at the time, and that is why he got fired. But Brian Callahan is not a good head coach. He's not a good head coach. He's not a good play caller. He doesn't get the guys ready on Sundays to play. It's just every single week, this team comes out on the field, and it's like I'm watching the same movie over and over and over again. Nothing gets better, and if it gets better, it is temporarily because the other team yesterday, the LA Rams, were much better than us in the second half, and it just goes to show that when you've got a head coach who can make adjustments on the fly, you can win games. The Rams did not play good in the first half. Sure, they did not play good in the first half. But because McVay is such a good head coach, he went into the locker room, he got his guys back into the game, he got their heads back into the game, he drew some things up, and the team annihilated us in the second half, 23-6. It was an embarrassing second half from the Tennessee Titans. And that is not something new with this football team, because this was an issue even with Vrabel at times, where we were doing really good in the first half, and then we just don't know what the heck we're doing in the second half. We can't finish the games. We cannot finish these games. This has been a big issue with Brian Callahan. He cannot finish games. Specifically in the second half. It's like when this guy comes up with a game plan, even if he's game planning, because I don't even know if he's doing that. When he is in there game planning, right? How come he doesn't have a plan for the entire game? Why does he have a plan, it seems like, for just half the game? Or even a quarter of the game? Why isn't it all 4 quarters of football? You don't have a plan going into these games. I don't understand why he never does that. And I said Mike Vrabel was a good coach because of, the times we were good. But when we didn't have a good roster or anything like that, Vrabel couldn't fix it. But also, Vrabel couldn't finish games at times either. So, this has not been just a Brian Callahan issue. But if you're asking me who does it worse, I would tell you Brian Callahan does it worse. This team comes out unprepared. This team does not look like they want to be out there. It is the same thing every single week, and it never gets better. It never gets better. It won't get better anytime soon with this guy. I don't understand why we didn't fire him in the offseason with Ran Carthon. I get it. You had your hands full with the Vrabel firing. And you just fired Ran Carthon, and now you got to pay Brian Callahan on top of that. I understand that. But, and maybe they do plan on firing Brian Callahan. Maybe the coaching cycle this cycle just wasn't good. Maybe they did think about, maybe they considered it, and they're like, these coaches aren't any better than Brian Callahan. We might as well just keep Callahan. But this team, I'm sorry, this is worse than Whisenhunt. This is worse than Whisenhunt. Whisenhunt was really bad, but at least with Whisenhunt, we knew we were going to be bad. We had no expectations with Ken Whisenhunt as our head coach. But with Brian Callahan, you've got the number 1 overall pick. You've got a wide receiver who's getting paid $92 million, and don't worry, we'll get into him. You've got Tony Pollard who's getting paid. You've got Jeffrey Simmons. You've got pieces on this roster. And even some of these rookies, these young rookies coming in, even with them coming in, this team should have beat Denver last week. Should have. But because Callahan doesn't know the rules of the game, which is another reason why he should be fired. I think the Titans, just something is telling me that the front office really considered firing him. The problem was there was nobody in this coaching cycle they felt like that can make this thing better. And they said he was in high demand, but it's like, okay, well, if he was in high demand for a coaching job, why didn't he get hired right away? Before we even, it doesn't make any sense, right? And I get it, it's a process, but I don't understand with this guy, man. It just doesn't get any better with Brian Callahan. It does not. You look at the Rams, they don't have the stupid penalties we do. They are a much better coached football team. They act like they want to win. Their guys act like they want to be there. They make plays. They are prepared to play these games. They are motivated to go out there every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, whatever, and play. They are ready to play because McVay is literally one of the best coaches. Is probably going to go down as one of the best coaches in NFL history. So, when you got someone to deal with like that, and don't get it twisted, because Sean Payton is a really good head coach too. He's a Super Bowl champion coach. But because Callahan cannot outcoach him because he is a liability at head coach, we cannot beat teams like Denver when we're supposed to beat teams like Denver. When you watch the game, before the game we weren't supposed to beat Denver, but we could have beat Denver. We absolutely could have beat Denver, and you could make an argument that we probably could have beat LA as well if we just didn't come out flat in the second half, because Callahan does not have his team ready for the entire game, apparently. And, I'm going to give a shout out to the Locked On Titans squad show. Tyler Rowland, Brad Hopkins, they do a good job, and then they got their host on there. I forgot his name. Please, I am so sorry if I forgot your name, but he is on there as well, and they do a great job. And you want to know, I think it was Tyler Rowland that said it. I want to say it was Tyler Rowland that said it. He said, yes, you can lose coaches get fired when they lose the locker room. But Brian Callahan kind of already lost the locker room last year. He kind of already lost it last year. And those are Tyler's words, not mine. I will never take credit from somebody else because that is what he said, not me. I'm just giving him credit for saying that because that is a valid point. That is a very valid point. This team has been abysmal to watch since last season. Even without Will Levis. When Mason Rudolph got in there, it did not look any better. It did not look any better with Mason Rudolph. And he's not Will Levis. And Mason Rudolph, he is what he is as a backup. He's not a world beater. I'd rather have Jake Browning as a backup than him. Did you see Jake Browning play yesterday? He played really well. I just think that, and people, before he even got hired, or not hired, but when he did get hired, people were like, oh my God, he's this quarterback whisperer. He worked with guys like Peyton Manning, Matthew Stafford, and Joe Burrow. I'm sorry, but Matthew Stafford was already a good quarterback. He was in a bad situation in Detroit. Detroit was never going to be good with Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford was good, don't get me wrong, but Detroit was just so bad that it just didn't matter who they had at quarterback. They were just really bad. And surprised that Megatron stayed all those years. Peyton Manning was already a Super Bowl champion before Brian Callahan even coached him up in Denver. So Peyton Manning was already one of the best quarterbacks in the league before he even worked with Callahan. And do you think Callahan really made him any better? No, because Peyton Manning already knew what the heck he was doing before Callahan even coached him up. Joe Burrow was a national champion at LSU and was the best quarterback in the SEC and in college football as a whole, threw for over, I think, 50 touchdowns or something like that before he got with Brian Callahan. So don't give me that he worked with these guys, he's the quarterback whisperer. Apparently not. Apparently he isn't, because those guys were already good before they even worked with Callahan. Insane. Let's get into Cam Ward, because Brian Callahan, do I think he should be fired? Absolutely, but it's not going to happen anytime soon, so I might as well just, not even worry about that right now. But Cam Ward, I thought he played better, and, he's a rookie. And you could see he had his growing pains in the game as well. But we're going to get to those. But let's get into the positive, because we love to start positive first. That touchdown pass to Alec Eomanor was insane. The fact that he was in the pocket, he was getting flushed out of the pocket, rolls to his right, and makes a throw across his body. And that ball hung in the air so long. It took forever to come down, and Eomanor just comes down with an incredible catch. And we'll get into Eomanor as well. But what a play by Cam Ward, and what a great execution by Eomanor. And I think those two already have a chemistry, and that is a good thing. Cam Ward played. We'll get into the grade and all that. I guess I need to get into the negatives. Trying to think of another positive that Cam Ward did. Oh, yeah, the run to get the first down, that was nice. Again, pocket collapsing, and he runs around to his right and scrambles and gets the first down. So I think he's starting to learn a little bit of the things he can and can't get away with. And that's great because, as a rookie coming in, you have to learn the things that you cannot do at the pro level that you got away with at the collegiate level, right? He had, a lot of issues throwing over the middle. I thought, he did pretty decent at that as well. Calvin Ridley actually caught the ball, so that was good to see. I thought Cam Ward played well. No, he did not throw for 200 yards, but the Rams have a good defense, and the offensive line is just really, really bad. And we'll get to Dan Moore, don't worry about that. I just think that Cam played better today than he did last week. And obviously the stats are going to show it, but just watching him play, that throw to A.O. Manor, that was incredible. I'm not gonna say he's our guy yet because I have made that mistake with Mariota. I've made that mistake with Young. I've made that mistake with Jake Locker. I never really thought he was our guy, so I can't really say that. Mettenberger, trash. Okay. Those guys I didn't really think had a shot to be the franchise quarterback, but I have done it with Mariota and I've done it with Vince Young, and I just can't. I just don't want to jinx it again. I can't. And maybe a little bit of Will Levis, but I already knew Will Levis wasn't that great. So, it is what it is with that. Cam Ward had the fumble. That cannot happen again. You cannot hold on to the ball that low to the dirt like that. I mean, the defender just literally strip sacked him. It was too easy. Cam Ward, you've got to do better. You've got to do a better job of holding on to that football because that is going to happen again if you let that happen. But I'm pretty sure he would be the first to tell you, if he didn't already, that he cannot do that again. He has got to do a better job of ball security in that situation. I get it, your offensive line is terrible, but you have got to do a better job of ball security there. Let's not make you part of the problem, okay? Let's learn from it, flush it, move on. He's a rookie. He's learning. So if he was like in his second or third year, I'd be like, okay, yeah, why isn't this getting any better? Why are we still having these issues? But he hasn't thrown an interception yet, so I guess that's good to know, right? He will throw an interception eventually, but right now, I thought, right now, he's just I think the game is just going to slow down for him at some point. The speed of the game is different at the NFL level than it is at college, and I think he will learn that as he continues to progress through the season. Okay, another negative that I'll say about Cam Ward, that overthrow to Chimere Dike, got to do better than that. DK's wide open. You cannot be overthrowing Chimere Dike in that situation. That is a first down. We could keep the drive going, but knowing Brian Callahan, it's probably going to be a field goal or a punt or worse, a turnover. So, but again, just got to do a better job of getting the ball to the receivers in that situation and not overthrowing them. But again, I think he will learn that. And again, I think he'll be the first to tell you that's his bad, that's his mistake, and he'll clean it up. But if I had to grade Cam Ward for yesterday's performance, I'd probably give him like a B-, nothing crazy. I thought the first game, I gave him a C+. I get it, your receivers, drop the football and, just offensive line trash and Brian Callahan trash. But I thought today was I thought today, he took those little baby steps. And that's what I want to see Cam Ward. My thing with Cam Ward this year is I just want to see him get better and better and better as he goes. I don't want him to take, I don't want a major setback. I would love a major leap, but But if he can get better from his mistakes and learn from his mistakes, he will be a better player overall. Not just quarterback, but better player, better leader, those things like that. And it starts with him, and he knows that. So, like I said, the fumble and the overthrow to DK, and maybe he did a little bit more things that I can't think of the top of my head right now that he could have did better. But like I said, he is a rookie. It is going to take time. But as of today, I give him a B minus. He did fine. He was fine. I get it. He was fine. And now we got to get to Alec Eomanor. What a steal in the draft, man. If I had to give Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker a grade for that draft, A+, man. This guy, what the heck? The helmet catch on the sideline, that was insane. That was insane. That is probably the best catch I've seen for the Titans in a long time. And then the connection, the Cam Ward, Alec Eomanor connection in the end zone where I just explained it. Cam Ward getting flushed out of the pocket, rolls to his right, and throws an absolute miracle pass. And that was an incredible catch by Eomanor. Does a little celebration. That was cool to see. And I'll give you this. If they could continue to build that chemistry, that bond throughout the season, that is going to be great. And I think they will. So, Eomanor, you get an A today. Maybe not an A+ because you didn't go for, I would have loved to see more. I don't know why they didn't go to him more in the second half. Maybe the Rams adjusted to it. But again, Brian Callahan coaching scared, so I don't know. But want to see that more. I thought Calvin Ridley did better, I guess, but still, I think he had a drop where the defender knocked it out of his hands, but come on, you should have caught it. You're bobbling the ball before you even try to catch it. What are you doing, Calvin Ridley? Not worth $92 million. It's not a number one wide receiver in the NFL, and he's only a number one wide receiver right now because he's on the Tennessee Titans. So, if he's on any other NFL roster, he's not a number one. Nope. He wouldn't even be a number one on the Carolina Panthers. It would be Trey McMillan. Territorial McMillan. So, because Calvin Ridley's on the Tennessee Titans, that is why he is our number one wide receiver. If he was not on the Tennessee Titans, he would be a third. That is how bad Calvin Ridley has been lately. Now, maybe he could get better. We'll see. But as of right now, I do not trust that contract, and I do not trust Calvin Ridley. But better, I guess. I don't understand why Gunnar Helm isn't out there. Chig, I get it. He's the number one tight end. But this team isn't going to be good, so why not? Let's see what we got in these rookies. Put Gunnar Helm out there on the field. Let's see what he can do. He made an incredible sideline catch last week. Let's get him more looks. Please, let's get him out there. Let's get him out here. He could be a safety blanket for Cam Ward. You never know. Because we don't use our players properly. Brian Callahan. Anyways. Tony Pollard. I think he had 90 yards. Okay. But I'm just, it felt like a long 90 yards. It felt like it took forever. This offense is just so slow, man. Such a slow offense that it looked like it took forever for Tony Pollard to do anything. But he had 90 yards. I guess that's good. So shout out Tony Pollard. Trying to think of who else. I could think of who was really, really good today. Nope, that's all I can think of right now. Let me know if I left anything out from the offense. Chimere Dike, back to offense, by the way. While we're talking about offense, the kick return, incredible. Cedric Gray, what are you doing? Why would you need to block him when Chimere Dike is literally 5 yards past you? Why? Just curious. Just wondering where your head was when that happened. Probably not in the game. And that's on coaching. The penalties. The penalties have got to stop, man. They've got to stop. This is an every week thing with this team. This team comes out unprepared, and that's a Brian Callahan thing. He's got to fix that immediately, but I don't think he will. I think we're going to see more penalties next week. Offense, Dan Moore. Not worth the contract at all. That was dumb by Mike Morganti and Chad Brinker. If you want to give a strike to Mike Morganti and Chad Brinker, we literally just fired Rand Carthon for giving out bad contracts, and you pay the guy who gave up the most sacks last season and the most penalties, I think. You gave him an $82 million contract with $50 million guaranteed to go out there and literally do the same thing he did last year with the Steelers. Steeler fans will be the first to tell you he's trash. So, and I don't understand what it is with this franchise. It doesn't matter who the GM is. It doesn't matter who the coach is. This team cannot find a left tackle to save their lives. Taylor Lewan was the last one we had, and he's gone. And we still are having issues finding that. Right tackle, I can understand because J.C. Latham is hurt, and you got guys like Oli Udoh, and you got guys like John Ojukwu, who are practice squad level players out there playing. They have an excuse to be bad, but you're getting paid $82 million. You've got $50 million guaranteed on your contract, buddy. You don't have an excuse to be playing bad. You don't. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. Speaking of bad contracts, L'Jarius Sneed on the defense, as we switch it up to the defense. Not worth $70 million. He did okay in the first half, but Davante Adams lit him up in the second half. Insane. Gave up the touchdown. You probably should have had a pass interference called on you a couple of times. He is a liability in coverage. So, not worth $70 million. I understand you were hurt, but you were out there the entire game. When you are getting paid $70 million, you are expected to go out there and shut down receivers every week, and you couldn't do it again. Michael Pittman cooked him last year, and now Davante Adams cooked you. Got cooked. Absolutely cooked, whooped, whatever you want to call it. Just terrible efforts. Didn't see much from Jeffrey Simmons. $100 million, didn't see much from him. I know DeVondre Sweat was out, so our run game got exposed. But our run defense got exposed because DeVondre Sweat's not in there. So not good from Jeffrey Simmons. Didn't see much. Cody Barton with the interception. Like to see that. The defense just broke down in the second half, and it's just, it is what it is, man. The defense just literally broke down in that second half, and they could not do anything in that second half. The Rams were literally doing whatever they wanted on offense. Nacua was cooking them. Brownlee, I think he was out there. Not a starting corner in the NFL. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. He's not a starting corner in the NFL. He got cooked. So, McCreary got cooked too, I guess, over the middle. So, it is what it is. McCreary, I'm not so worried about. But Brownlee, yes, he's got to play better. He's got to play better. And I'm going to keep this fast because my battery is running low here. I'll just say this overall. This team sucks. It sucks. Well, duh. But we had expectations this year. We had expectations last year with all the contracts we gave. But just not good. Brian Callahan on the hot seat once again. What else is new with this football team? Anyways, guys, I'm going to get off here because my battery is running low. Let me know if I left anything out. I will see you guys next week. You guys have a blessed day and hopefully better days ahead for the Tennessee Titans. Thank you guys. Bye.